Hi, welcome back. Today I'm in the hummingbird garden and I wanted to show you some of my favorite September blooming flowers, which are easy to grow from seed and are pollinator favorites. So the first one on the list is Verbena bonariensis. That's this one right next to me here. And this one we actually grew from seed last year, and it's perennial where we live. We also grew a bunch more this year from seed just to put in other places around the garden. And this is like everybody's favorite. So there's always butterflies around it, bees, hoverflies, hummingbirds. So yeah, very popular, and we like it too. I like it along the walkway because it's one of the flowers that you can kind of brush past and it doesn't really hurt it. So it's kind of like fun to be able to do that with some things. Others might be a little too fragile. So this one's really easy to grow from seed. The one tip that I would give is just to like help it stay kind of humid while it's first germinating. So I put like a plastic lid on the pot or on the container that I was growing them in, and that seemed to help. And I think I took it off too soon because once I removed it, everything kind of like stopped growing, and it was like a month later that I started giving it more moisture, and I think covered it again, or maybe just more moisture. But in any case, that was kind of when it started growing. Um, yeah, that's when it started growing again. But once these get going, they like really get going, and you can kind of keep them tall. Like this one is probably 5 feet tall, and you could keep it like that, or if you cut it like about halfway down, it will make it a little bit bushier. So depending on what look you're going for, I kind of like the tall, wispy, kind of waving back and forth in the wind look. So that's this guy, originally from, I think, Argentina. I think like Buenos Aires, hence the name. And like I said, these ones kind of like once they get going, they do take off. So if you start them, I think we started them in April and they were blooming by kind of like high summer, by end of July or so. And then they'll just keep blooming until the frost. And as long as it doesn't get below, I think about like minus 15 Celsius. So whatever that is, I want to say like 5 Fahrenheit, but I'm not sure. Anyway, so as long as it doesn't get below that where you live, they should just come back every year. And they do self-seed as well. So, um, yeah, like especially if you're going for kind of a more natural look, it's a really good one for that. Or you could even use it in like a wildflower meadow. If they are invasive where you live, I know that there are some like sterile versions as well. So you wouldn't be able to grow it from seed, but you could still have like a similar look. And second on my list are zinnias. So we grow like a ton of different kinds of zinnias. I have these like really tall pink ones here. These are the, I want to say like California Giant, something like that. So we grow like the pink ones of those, the gold ones, and the lime green ones. And they're all really popular. Some of them are like full doubles, and some of them are kind of semi doubles. The semi doubles, I think, are definitely more popular with the pollinators because they have this like little crown of like yellow flowers right in the center. So I think there's like kind of a lot going for them. But I even see a lot of bees on the full double ones. So there must be something that they get out of it. Occasionally you'll see the hummingbirds visit them as well, which is super cute. I believe that they're North American native, North and Central America maybe. Here they're annuals, so we regrow them every year. We also have like Oklahoma White, which is kind of like, yeah, they actually get like super bushy, and those ones are wild because they were getting kind of tall, and then we had a rainstorm, and they kind of like split open, but where they fell, I just left them, so they started growing like upward shoots. So now there's like, I think I had only planted like five of these in this one area, but now they've kind of just like taken over and they look amazing. So just like great for the garden, great for if there's like a space that you want to fill. One thing I will say for zinnias though is to wait and put them in the ground once the ground is like a little warmer. I kind of did an experiment this year where I grew I think 21 of each variety. I put 14 of them out. I think like the end of May. It had been warm here for almost a month by that point, so I thought that they would be okay. And then I kept seven back that I potted up into like a gallon pot, and kept in the greenhouse for an extra month. And those ones did so much better than the ones that I put out right away. So I think for next year, I might wait till the end of June to put them out and up pot them all in the greenhouse first because they just had like a really good root system. You could tell like the stem was like really strong and thick, and they started blooming before the ones that I had put out before. And I'll show you a picture where like I have two of them side by side, and these were like from the same pack, germinated at the same time, like in the same batch and everything. And the only difference was that I held some back, and those ones just did so much better. The other thing is that if you have a pretty long growing season, they can sometimes bloom out. So what I do for zinnias and for sunflowers is that I'll actually sow a second batch around June. So I'll do the first batch in April that starts blooming kind of by July, and then I'll do a batch in June that starts blooming in September at some point, just because they can bloom out sometimes, especially if it's like really hot where you live. And next on my list is Helenium, which is these yellow flowers right here. And they were kind of at their peak, I don't know, a couple weeks ago, but they're still like, yeah, amazing. And we have a bunch of these. These ones I grew from seed, and then we have other ones that we've bought as plugs as well. So you can get them in all different colors, kind of from yellow to red. So lots of oranges and kind of those tones. And they have like these perfect little like shuttlecock flowers where it's like the little ball on top with then the little like petals around the edge. So just like super cute. Like I think it's like a very easy flower for the pollinators. Like bees are all over this one. Um, and yeah, and it's actually like huge too. This one is, I don't know, if it was standing up straight, I think it would be like almost as tall as I am. So I would say definitely at least 5.5 feet. And I kind of messed up on the pruning for this one. I tried to like Chelsea chop it, so like cut it back halfway. Um, but I don't know, maybe I should have done all of them. I left this one, and then this one grew like very vigorously when I cut the rest, but then the rest were stunted. So I think next year I'm just not going to do it and just let it be. It'll be like a bush. Um, and the one thing with these is that, at least for us, it took it a full year to establish before it bloomed. So it didn't bloom in the first year. So if that's something you're looking for, I would say maybe buy it as a plug instead. But it was really rewarding. Like basically nothing had happened all of last year. It just had like a rosette at the bottom. And then this year, like this big monster came up, and it's been blooming kind of for like 2.5 months. Like it started blooming pretty much the end of June. So yeah, so that's this guy. Really easy to sow. We did it in our like April batch, and then I think maybe if we had started it sooner, it would have bloomed the first season as well. But I almost don't mind because it established like a really robust root system. So even now, like where I cut those other ones back and nothing happened to them, there's all these new shoots coming out at the bottom. So I think next year I could even divide it, or I might just leave it as like a clump of like 12 of these, let it like really fill in the space, and then I can divide it at the end of next season. And moving on from the heleniums to sunflowers. And sunflowers, we kind of were growing them more as ornamentals. Like the ones I was growing weren't specifically for the wildlife. They were kind of just like because we thought they were really cute. So it was the teddy bear ones. And then we also have a few varieties like in the vegetable gardens and stuff, which are for seeds. So, for the birds and for us. But I was really surprised with the teddy bear ones because they don't really have like that center of the sunflower. It's like all like tiny little petals, but like the bees are all over them. And then once the flowers like finished blooming, I left some of the heads on, and they still form seed heads, which I wasn't like really expecting. For some reason, I thought that those ones would be like sterile or something. Um, but there's like little birdies on them like all day. I need to figure out the names of the birds, but there's definitely some like chickadees. There's some like maybe like the little goldfinches. Um, and a bunch of others, but it's like the little birds that kind of travel in like packs, and so they're like all together. So there'll be like five little birds on like this one sunflower, and they're super cute. They just pull out the seeds and then like fly away. So yeah, amazing. Like early on in the season for like bumblebees and stuff, and then this time of year, amazing for the birds. And same with the zinnias, we do like 2 batches. So I'm just planting out a bunch more sunflowers now that are they kind of have their first bud forming. So those ones will bloom till the first frost, and then the ones that I had planted earlier in the year are now going to seed. So we're getting to enjoy kind of both at the same time. So the last of the 5 is going to be dahlias, and we grew a bunch of dahlias this year. We ended up at the end, after giving a bunch away as well, we ended up with 27 plants, and they have done amazingly well. They were maybe the easiest of all of them to start. Like I feel like with the zinnias, sometimes the leaves can look like a little funky, or they'll like stress me out. I think something's going wrong. The dahlias were like the most easygoing of all the seedlings. They kind of just did their thing. And these ones, I held all of them back and grew them on in like a gallon pot before I planted them in the garden. So they all had really good root systems and they just like took off. Some of these are like completely like beasts. Like some of the main stems are like almost 2 inches across. And I have a whole video about growing them, so I'm not going to go into too much detail here, but I'll link that one in case you haven't checked it out. Go and check it out. And yeah, just like one of the most rewarding experiences. So that's the main 5, and then I'm also including a bonus one, and that one is beans. So we're growing a couple different kinds of beans in the vegetable beds, but the ones that are like doing like amazing, and I think next year I might try them as an ornamental as well, and we can still harvest all the beans at the end. It's these Greek runner beans that my brother sent me from Greece, and they like we ate most of them when we held 4 back and just like planted them in the ground, and they put up their bean stalks and stuff, and they need a little more water than I was expecting in the beginning. So the beginning growth was like just a little bit scraggly, and although they were blooming well, they weren't forming too many seed pods. But now, like I don't know, like cloud of bean growth at the top of their 6 foot trellis. So and they just have these like bright red flowers. The hummingbirds all over them. The bumblebees love them, and they're like growing us all this food. And with these ones, you don't actually have to pick the pods. You can just like let them stay on and mature. It doesn't seem to be inhibiting the flower growth. Like it's blooming more now than it has this whole time, and it's like growing all these seed pods. Oops, I just hit a bee. Hit a bee. And it's growing all these pods. So yeah, that's the bonus ones. And I would just say like veggies in general, although we're growing them for us, like there's a lot of commotion around there, especially with like the pollinators. So that's the bonus 6th one. So yeah, thanks for joining me today. And those have been 5 or 6 of our favorite flowers that we like to grow from seed, and we will continue to grow from seed. And I'll see you next time.